A very warm welcome to each and every one to Reflections. This is our devotional Bible study. We're presently in the book of 1 John, chapter 2, beginning with verse 3 today. If you have a Bible, would like to follow along. This is all about being confident in our walk with Christ. We're asking a question today. How is your walk going? No better way to get us started than that great hymn, Just a Closer Walk with Thee. Just a closer walk with Thee. Granted, Jesus is my plea. Daily walking close to Thee. Let it be, dear Lord, let it be. I am weak, but Thou art strong. Jesus, keep me from all wrong. I'll be satisfied as long as I walk. Let me walk close to Thee. Just a closer walk with Thee. Granted, Jesus is my plea. Daily walking close to Thee. Let it be, dear Lord, let it be. Through this world of toil and snares, if I falter, Lord, who cares? Who with me my burden shares? None but Thee, dear Lord, none but Thee. Just a closer walk with Thee. Granted, Jesus is my plea. Daily walking close to Thee. Let it be, dear Lord, let it be. When my feeble life is o'er, time for me will be no more. Guide me gently, safely o'er to Thy kingdom shore, to Thy shore. Just a closer walk with Thee. Granted, Jesus is my plea. Daily walking close to Thee. Let it be, dear Lord, let it be. Yes, just a closer walk with Thee. We read from 1 John chapter 2, beginning with the 3rd verse. We know that we have come to know Him if we obey His commands. The man who says, I know Him, but does not do what He commands is a liar. The truth is not in him. But if anyone obeys His word, God's love is truly made complete in him. This is how we know we are in Him. Whoever claims to live in Him must walk as Jesus did. Dear friends, I'm not writing you a new command, but an old one, which you've had since the beginning. This old command is the message you have heard. Yet I'm writing you a new command. Its truth is seen in Him and you, because the darkness is passing and the true light is already shining. Anyone who claims to be in the light but hates his brother is still in the darkness. Whoever loves his brother lives in the light. There's nothing in him to make him stumble. But whoever hates his brother is in the darkness and walks around in the darkness. He does not know where he is going because the darkness has blinded him. There was a little boy sitting on the front steps with his face cradled in his hands, obviously very upset. His dad just came home from work and asked, well, what's wrong? Well, just between us, Dad, I'm having trouble getting along with your wife. Nobody said it was easy living out our faith on this side of heaven. And so the question before us is, how's your walk going? John said, the one that remains in him, himself also walked just as he walked. And that is where we Get that familiar phrase, make sure your walk measures up to your talk. No, Jesus loves the word remain, or John loves the word remain and abide. He'll use it over 24 times, and it just speaks of a relationship with Jesus. Obviously, walking implies a forward motion, movement toward a goal, taking steady aim and sure steps. You not only walk with them, but we walk like him. And that is the principle of imitation, the imitation of Christ's character, his love, his joy, his peace, all for the will of the Father. Will Rogers says, live in such a way you should not be ashamed to sell your parrot to the town gossip. Reporters and city officials gathered at Chicago Railroad Station one afternoon in 1953. The person they were meeting was the 1952 Nobel Peace Prize winner. Of course, city officials approached with their hands outstretched. The man thanked them but kept walking. He quickly reached the side of an elderly woman who was struggling with 2 large suitcases. He picked up the bags with a smile, escorted the woman to the bus, helping her aboard. Dr. Albert Schweitzer, famous missionary doctor who spent his life helping poor in Africa. One member of the reception committee said to the reporter, "First time I ever saw a sermon walking." 2 thoughts about our walk with Christ today. First is that love says, I get to do this, not have to, I get to. John said, by this we know we have come to know him if we keep his commandments. The one who says, I have come to know him and does not keep his commandments is a liar. The love of God has truly been perfected. By this we know that we are in him. So John uses repetition to reinforce the fact that we can be confident in our Christianity. Interesting that word know is used over 40 times as John confronts false teachers. They claim to be spiritually elite, the only ones in the know. The rest were in darkness. The word know, or gnosko, refers to knowledge through personal experience. Another word for know in the Greek is hoida, and that's knowledge through information. Kind of reminds me of a little boy who began to yell and cry. His mother rushed back to the room where his little sister had a fistful of his hair. Well, she unwrapped the toddler's fingers, hugged her son. Honey, she does not know it hurts. Well, she left the room, and seconds later, the little girl started screaming. She ran back as he was walking out. He looked up at her and said, she knows now. See, there's a difference between knowing intellectually and knowing experientially, isn't there? So our personal relationship between Christ and the believer is what empowers us to say, oh, I get to follow Jesus. I get to walk with Jesus. So knowing has more to do with behavior than beliefs. That's why love says, oh, I get to. Oh, I get to. When John talks about keeping the commandments, keep has the idea of observant, watchful, obedient. There was a businessman well known for his ruthlessness, once announced to writer Mark Twain, before I die, I will climb Mount Sinai and read the 10 Commandments aloud at the top. Twain said, I have a better idea. You could stay in Boston and keep them. A Sunday school teacher is explaining the 10 Commandments to her 5- and 6-year-olds. She said, which teaches us how to treat our brothers and sisters? One little boy said, I know, thou shalt not kill. See, the believer is grieved by their disobedience. And so this speaks of determination and desire. Of course, we can't keep Christ's commandments perfectly, but we can keep them purposefully. Jesus fulfilled the law. He was the only one who could keep the law perfectly. We cannot, but we certainly can keep it purposefully. The liar he's referring to here is someone who lies as a pattern of life. The false teachers, the Gnostics, claimed to be Christians but lived unrepentantly in sin. They talk like they know the truth, but their lives show they do not keep the truth. They fit the description of the person in this caricature to describe a false believer. I'd like to buy $3 worth of God, not enough to change my soul or disturb my sleep, just enough to equal a cup of warm milk and a nap in the sunshine. I don't want enough of him to make me love someone I don't like or help someone I don't know. I want happiness, not transformation. I want the warmth of the womb, not a new birth. I want a pound of the eternal in a carry-out bag. I'd like only $3 worth of God, please. To follow his word was used in John's day of a sentry on duty walking the post. It was used for guarding carefully as if a person was guarding a treasure. The word for love is that word agape. It's that faithful, self-sacrificing, in it for the long haul committed love. It's not driven by emotion, but by the will. It bears the fruit of emotion and affection. Now, this word doesn't talk about falling in love, but choosing to love God and others. And so perfected means accomplished. Following the word accomplishes its purpose in us. As we treasure the word of God, we open the door for his love to accomplish his purpose in and through us. Mother asked her small son what he would like for his birthday. "Oh, I'd like a little brother." Mom said, "That's such a big wish. Why do you want a little brother?" The little fella said, "There's only so much I can blame on the dog." Now, following is not always easy. Now, Roger Staubach led the Dallas Cowboys to the Super Bowl victory in 1971. He admitted his position as a quarterback who didn't call his own signals was a source of trial. Now, Coach Landry, who had a genius mind when it came to strategy, sent in every play. So Roger had a decision to make. Would he allow pride to rule his life and ignore his coach? Or would he listen to his coach and do what he wanted? And so Staubach said, "Once I learned to obey, there was harmony, fulfillment, and victory." Love's obedience is not a, "Oh, do I have to?" but, "Oh, I get to," which births fulfillment and victory as well. It's kind of like growing up. Sometimes going to church was a have to. "Oh, do I have to go to church? There's other things going on in life." But as we grow older and connect with our relationship with Christ, it becomes not a duty, but a delight. "Oh, I get to worship God today. I get to worship with other believers. I get to honor Jesus' resurrection. I get to hear his word." And so it's a joy to have these reflections during the week to continue to encourage us in our walk with Jesus Christ. Then John goes on to say, the one who loves his brother and sister remains in the light, and there's nothing in him to cause stumbling. The one who hates is in the darkness and walks in the darkness and does not know where he's going because the darkness has blinded his eyes. In other words, that word agape is a light bulb that keeps us and others from stumbling. John has 46 references to love. And so it's a love that says, "I see you," in whatever situation one might be in at the moment. A man walking down a dark street saw a pinpoint of light coming toward him. As he drew near, he could see a man with a flashlight carrying a white cane. And so he wondered, why would a blind man be carrying a light? So he asked him, and the blind man smiled, I carry my light not so I can see, but so that others can see me. I cannot help being blind. I can help from being a stumbling block. And so agape, that love of God, makes us stepping stones. You know, that word stumble refers to the trigger of a trap. It means literally a stumbling block is not in him. That word hate is a persistent, characteristic attitude. This person is known for simply being hateful. You know, hating is like burning down your own house to get rid of a rat. Not very wise, not a good strategy. And so we're not to let the trigger of hatred entrap us or anyone else. And the trap is always set, so we need to be careful. C.S. Lewis said in Mere Christianity, don't waste time bothering whether you love your neighbor. Act as if you did. As soon as we do this, we find one of the great secrets. When you're behaving as if you love someone, you will presently come to love them. If you injure someone you dislike, you will find yourself disliking them more. If you do them a good turn, you'll find yourself disliking them less. When we love, we live in the light. And so agape says, I see you for what you are. Warts and all, I see you. I want to share three true stories with you. Illustrations in honor of the Trinity, where agape says, I see you. And as we hear these stories, may it continue to stir in us a desire to not only say, Lord, I get to be a person who loves, but I also see those around me. I see the need. First is televangelist Jim Bakker served time in prison for financial misdealings and fraud. He was interviewed by Christianity Today years ago after being released from prison. And Franklin Graham visited him and would sponsor him with a job and a car when released. And so Jim said, if you do this for me, it will hurt your reputation. Your family doesn't need my baggage. But Franklin Graham insisted. And so when released from prison, the Grahams paid for his lodging and a car. His first Sunday out, Ruth Graham called the halfway house owned by the Salvation Army. They asked permission to drive him to their church in Montreat, North Carolina, and attend services. Well, he got permission, and when he arrived at the church, was seated with the Graham family. 2 rows of them, aunts, uncles, cousin, they're all there. Then in walked Ruth Graham. She walked down that aisle, sat next to Mr. Bakker, and told the whole world she was his friend. And after church, she invited him to attend their cabin for dinner. She asked him for some addresses. He pulled his envelope out of his pocket. In prison, you're not allowed to have a wallet. And so Ruth said, don't you have a wallet? Yeah, well, this envelope is my wallet. Well, she left the room. Upon returning, she said, this is one of Billy's wallets. He doesn't need it. You can have it. Talk about agape love in action. Not only is there a get-to there, but Jim, the child of God, I see you. Love covers a multitude of sins. Sin keeps no record of wrongs. Love keeps no record of wrongs, and it covers a multitude of sins. I see you. I see you. There was a young seminary student concerned about his wife potentially losing their child. Late one evening after studying in the library, this student looked for a professor to speak with. Well, he saw a light shining underneath a door and knocked. It was a professor he knew very well. "Oh, yes, Chuck, what do you want?" He stood there with tears running down his cheeks. Am I disturbing you?" "Yes, you're disturbing me. What do you want?" Nothing. I don't want anything." "Fine." The door closed. Next day he ran into Howard Hendricks, longtime professor at Dallas Theological Seminary. He listened, he heard the news, walked up to Chuck, put his arms around him and said, "Tell me what's going on." He listened and told Chuck of their own miscarriage years earlier, how he and his wife recovered from that tragedy. The professor said, "Chuck, I see you." Chuck Swindoll would later become a president of Dallas Theological Seminary, and he said in tribute to Howard, "I've learned people will not care how much you know until they know how much you care." I see you means I have time for you. What I'm doing is not as important as seeing you, as spending time with you, as listening. Final story is the Special Olympics in Seattle, Washington. 9 runners light up for the 100-meter run. All the runners eagerly started out except one boy. He stumbled and began to cry. The other 8 runners heard the boy cry, slowly turned around, and all turned back. One girl with Down syndrome bent down and kissed the boy and said, "That'll make it better." All 9 of them linked arms, walked together to the finish line. Together as that they were saying, "We see you, we see you." Everyone in the stadium stood and cheered and went on for a solid 10 minutes. And see, that race represents what God's family should be like in the midst of our woundedness. It says, "We see you. I see you." I don't have to finish first. I don't have to get ahead. I don't have to win. I see you. I have time for you. Love keeps no record of wrongs. As you hear these stories, maybe one resonates more with you than the other. Maybe you remember a situation when someone saw you and that made a difference in your life, whether it be growing up or school or even here right now. Thank God our staff truly desire to say, "I see you. How may I support you?" You know, and as we look at those around us, Lord, open our eyes to the need to have a supporting smile or phone call or visit or connection. Jesus loved us. Jesus saw us, dead in our trespasses and sins. And that's why he went to the cross. That's why he shed his blood. That's why he rose victorious and conquered sin, death, and hell for all time. He demonstrated his love for us while we're still sinners. He died. And so we can every day live as a loved and forgiven child of God, empowered by that love to say, "Lord, I get to make a difference with your love today. Lord, I get to see somebody out there, open my eyes to see, to make a difference." Oh, as the love of God has touched us, may that same love reciprocate. How's your walk going? How's your walk going? Well, we sang Just a Closer Walk with Thee. Well, let's close with Have Thine Own Way, Lord, as the Lord continues to work his love in our hearts so we may make a difference in the lives of those around us. Have thine own way, Enter thy will while I am waiting, yielded and still. Have thine own way, Lord, have thine own way. Search me and try me, Master, today. Whiter than snow, Lord, wash me just now, as in thy presence humbly I bow. Have thine own way, Lord, have thine own way. Wounded and weary, help me, I pray. Power, all power, surely is thine. Touch me and heal me, Savior divine. Have thine own way, Lord, have thine own way. Hold all my being, absolute sway. Here with my spirit, here Lord shall see Christ only, always living in me. Have thine own way, Lord, have thine own way. Thou art the potter, I am the clay. Fill with thy spirit, and all shall see Christ only, always living in me. Well, may that agape love of the Savior continue to be poured out upon us and multiplied in our hearts and lives. May it continue to make a difference to those around us as well. Well, the Lord be with you till we meet again.